Courtney. Welcome back to Poppy and Gray. And if you are new here, thank you for stopping by. And if you have been a subscriber, then thanks for joining me for another video. So today I thought that I would talk a little bit about Nonfiction November. And yes, I realize we are on, the 6th day of the month, but let's not talk about it because life's been kind of intense lately. So, Nonfiction November is hosted by a booktuber that I watch. Her name is Olive. Her channel is A Book Olive. I will leave it linked down below, as well as her intro video explaining what Nonfiction November is about. And essentially it is just trying to get people to read more nonfiction. So if you read 0 nonfiction and you read 1 work of nonfiction this month, then yay, you win. If you read, 1 or 2 nonfiction books, then try reading 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever. I really like nonfiction, and when I am in a book slump or a reading slump, I tend to go back to nonfiction as kind of a palate cleanse for me. And looking back over the month that I read the most books was, I believe it was September. I read 5 books and 3 of those were nonfiction. So it goes without saying that even though I am currently in the middle of getting my doula certification as well as writing for NaNoWriMo, I still want to participate in Nonfiction November because why not? She does give some one-word prompts to help you choose if you need a little bit of help or if you want a little bit more of a challenge. And I decided to use those words to help me figure out what I wanted to read and limit myself, because I tend to decide that I want to participate and then request 20 books from the library, and I honestly don't I know that I'm not going to get through them. I'm hoping that I get through the 4 that I have chosen. I have some nonfiction books to read for my doula certification as well. So we will see how that goes. And my first pick is Slugfest, inside the epic 50-year battle between Marvel and DC by Reed Tucker. This was suggested by Olive in her Nonfiction November recommendations video, and I chose this for the prompt design, not only because I like the cover design, which has that very graphic pop art comic book look to it, but because the creators of both Marvel and DC comics have designed a universe down to every detail that their characters live and really inhabit, and I think that is very interesting, particularly as I deep dive into NaNoWriMo world building and kind of creating that universe where your characters function has been of great interest for me lately. So this is my choice for design, and it just really is, it says, to many partisans, Marvel is now on top, but for much of the early 20th century, it was DC that was the undisputed leader, having launched the American superhero genre with the 1938 publication of Joe Shuster and Jerry Siegel's Superman strip. DC titles sold millions of copies every year, and its iconic characters were similar to nearly everyone in America. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, DC had them all. In 1961, an upstart company came out of nowhere to smack DC in the chops with the publication of Fantastic Four #1. Marvel changed the way superheroes were done Writer, editor Stan Lee, artist Jack Kirby, and the talented Marvel bullpen subsequently unleashed a string of dazzling new creations, including the Avengers, Hulk, Superman, the X-Men, and Iron Man. So Slugfest is the first book to chronicle the history of this epic rivalry into a single in-depth narrative. It is the story of the greatest corporate rivalry never told, complete with interviews with major names in the industry. It reveals the arsenal of schemes the two companies have employed in their attempts to outmaneuver the competition, whether it be stealing ideas, poaching employees, planting spies, or launching price wars. The feud has never completely disappeared, and it simmers on a low boil to this day. So this sounds really, really interesting. The next prompt is sport, and I'm not a sporty person, although there are several, not necessarily tell-alls, but I guess biographies and autobiographies of some very prominent sports figures that are on my list to read. There's one by Muhammad Ali that I really, really want to read. There's one by Jose Canseco, which oddly, if I had to choose a sport that I really enjoy, it would be baseball. In high school, my high school sweetheart, who turned into my first husband, was a baseball player, and that sort of ignited my really love of the game, although my dad really loves baseball too. And Jose Canseco played for the Oakland A's, who had this big rivalry with the Cincinnati Reds in the 90s. I'm from Cincinnati and sadly a Reds fan. Anyway, but I did not choose either of those for sport. I did choose Unnecessary Roughness, Inside the Trial and Final Days of Aaron Hernandez. Gosh, I cannot talk. This is by Jose Baez, who is a very prominent defense attorney. If you follow any true crime things, you may recognize his name. He is the attorney that also represented Jodi Arias in her really larger-than-life trial. Aaron Hernandez was a football player. I believe he played for the New England Patriots. And he was subsequently convicted of a murder. He was then charged with 2 more murders that were related, so he was charged in a double murder case. Baez was his attorney for that case, who not only represented him, but managed to get him acquitted of those double murder charges, and this tells the story of the last year and that case, and documents the, I guess, behind the scenes workings of trying to get the original murder conviction looked at. And Aaron Hernandez, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time saying his name, died by suicide during that time, and so this is his lawyer's, I guess, point of view, and goes into details about the case and releases some facts that have been previously unknown about the case, I'm assuming. I didn't follow this particular case too closely. I sort of remember hearing about it. There is a podcast about this case. I believe I listened to 1 or 2 episodes maybe, and I know some other true crime podcasts have tackled this case for an episode, but I believe there is one long form podcast devoted to it, but I have not listened to it. So I thought this was an interesting choice for the prompt of sport. So the next one-word prompt is true, and this is my selection for that prompt and word. And wow, I'm having a really hard time. I have not filmed a video in a really long time, and it is so obvious. It is another I guess technically it would be true crime because it is about a scam, but it is a deal with the devil, the dark and twisted true story of one of the biggest cons in history. It is by Blake Ellis and Melanie Hicken. They are two investigative journalists who stumble upon this scam perpetuated by a psychic, and they sort of follow it. This is one of the longest running scams. It managed to rake in more than $200 million in the United States and Canada alone. There is some evidence that it operated globally, but I guess this book really only focuses on the US and Canada. So yeah, the psychic is, oh, I can't remember her name, Maria Duval, and it goes behind the scenes and what I guess some people think is one woman running, you know, just a scam, that she operates by mail, which is another interesting thing because this takes place, you know, during this time period. I believe they start investigating maybe in like 2012 or something, but it operates by mail, which is a really interesting thing because you think of like con men and catfishing and all of that is more, it's done electronically and through email. The sad thing, well, I mean, any con or scam is really kind of a sad thing, but the saddest thing about this particular scam is that it targets the elderly, it targets people who are sort of sinking into dementia or Alzheimer's disease, and it explores some of the victims, some of the reasons why, because you would think, like, you know, you get this letter in the mail and it's from some psychic saying, you know, send me $50 or, you know, X, Y, and Z bad thing is going to happen to you. Like, why would you not just throw that away? Like, it's junk mail like any other junk mail that you get every day. So there is something really insidious about it and the way that this particular fraud operates. So I think that would be interesting. I chose it not just because it's true crime, but also because a lot of times the truth is more stranger and more spectacular than fiction. And the last prompt is voice, and for that I chose Motherhood So White, a memoir of race, gender, and parenting in America by Nefertiti Austin. I have actually already started reading this book. I believe I am about 135 pages into it. I don't know how long it is. I think it's like 300 pages maybe. 287 pages. It is about the a young single Black woman who chooses not only to become a mother, but to become a mother through adoption. So it focuses on, you know, her navigating her way through the foster care system where she adopts her son from. Also, you know, what it is like to raise a Black child, specifically a Black son, in the current political and social climate that the U.S. is in. And it also really talks about how what am I trying to say here? It really talks about how the, you know, topic of motherhood, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, is really given to us as readers, and a lot of times it is through the lens of, you know, a white woman, whether she be, you know, a single mom, a partnered mom, and, you know, a mom from another marginalized community, whether it be like gay moms, or even transgender moms. Like, even those stories tend to be told through the lens of whiteness. And as someone who raised children, you know, I had my 4 oldest children in the 90s, and then I sort of restarted my journey in 2014 when I had another baby, and now I am a stay-at-home mom. And even my own experience as a suburban stay-at-home mom, you know, tends to be not that diverse. When we do the things that we do during the day and encounter other moms and other children, there's not a lot of diversity there. So it is, I chose this because I think these sorts of stories and journeys need to be heard. These voices need to be heard and uplifted more, and I am interested to read more about her take on it. So if you have made it that long, I apologize for the rustiness and the rambling, but those are my 4 picks for Nonfiction November. If you are participating, leave a comment down below, and maybe leave recommendations or tell me what you're reading. I'm always interested in adding more nonfiction to my list of things to read. I will link Olive's channel. There is also a Twitter account that you can follow, and I will be sure to link that down below. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.